Well, we'll see. Maybe we'll finish the whole daf. But there's a show program at 8 o'clock, so we're going to stop at 8 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
But we'll get there. So today's a daf of a lot of Agadata. Today's daf is Kuf Yud Bet, 112 in Arvei Pesachim. I don't know if everyone got to yesterday, but David told me that he got up to the sixth line, the word Tana. So we'll start there, if that's okay. Let's get there. So Tana, again, I'm not exactly sure what everyone learned about this during the week, because this Gemaras are challenging about this whole concept of shadim and spirits and magic and what to be worried about. The Gemara obviously took it very, very seriously. But some of it you could see where it comes from. A lot of it I have no idea where it comes from, but we'll read the words and we can decide what we understand. But one of the things that they were very particular about, which is the sixth line, Tana, they taught, Ochlin umashkin tachat hamita, if you have food or drink under your bed, a bed that you're sleeping under, afilim mechufin b'kli barzel, even if they're sealed in iron kalim, so nothing can get in or out, ruach ra'ah shara alehem. There's a bad spirit, a ruach ra'ah that is envelops them if being under the bed. And there were people who were very, very mocked, and this is brought even very recently about not eating food or not storing food or drink under your bed. Again, this is brought La'alacha by the Shulchan Aruch and many others. So again, I don't know what the exact ruach that they're worried about was. Right? There was a whole other concept of open containers where they worried about poison, but this is even a closed container. Tanar Rabbanan. Now, continuing the concept of shedim, I don't know how we translate shedim either, spirits, let's say. So it says the Braita, Lo yishteh adam mayim, a person should not drink water. The Rashbam says this means in the dark, meaning if you wake up in the middle of the night and it's pitch black, you shouldn't take a drink of water. Lo b'leilei reviot, not on the night of Wednesday, meaning the Tuesday night, right, the night of the fourth day. But lo b'leilei Shabbatot, not on Friday night. We're going to see that those are the nights that are really bad luck for shedim. and Tuesday night. And presumably it's because that's when people are not out a lot. So that's when the beasts are allowed to roam, let's say. So on those 2 nights, you shouldn't drink water. Shatan, if you do, your blood's in your head, meaning you've put yourself in danger. Mipnei sakana, my sakana says ruach ra'ah. Some bad, again, we don't know what ruach ra'ah means exactly, but an evil spirit will be inside of you, or will take over you. Says, well, what if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're thirsty? In Tzachu, right? What if you wake up at the middle of Tuesday night or Friday night and you're thirsty? Tzachu means thirsty. Maitakanti, what do? Says, well, you got a solution. You could say, Neima Shiv'a Kolot Shamar David Alamayim. If you say the Tehillim that David said about water, which we're going to quote in a second, Kol Hashem Al Hamayim, and then that sort of gets you in the right mood and the right mindset, V'hadr Nishti, and then you could drink. Shenemar, now this is the Tehillim that, of course, we are very familiar with, where we say, Kol Hashem al Hamayim, right? The voice, the spirit, the voice, the sound of God is on the water. El HaKovod Hirim, and there's 7 languages. Hashem al Mayim Rabim, Kol Hashem Bakoach, Kol Hashem Ba'adar, Kol Hashem Shaber Razim, Shaber Hashem et Arzei al Vanon, Kol Hashem Chotzev Lavot Eish, right? God will make the fire. Kol Hashem Yachil Midbar, Kol Hashem Yachil Hashem Midbar Kadesh. Kol Hashem Yuchala Ayalot v'Yachsof Yarot v'Yichlok Lo Merkavod. Right. So,
I say these every Friday night.
Exactly. Well, only if you wake up and you're thirsty. Again, the Rashbam makes it sound like if there's light, you don't have to worry so much about the shadim. Shadim apparently are very scared of light. Like,
don't we say this every Friday night during Kabbalat Shabbat?
We do, yeah. But that's not why we say it. Well, maybe it is. No, there's other, right? These Sheva Kolot, there's a whole meaning between them. But correct, yes. So anyway, so you could say that every week, but if you wake up in the middle of the night, you could say that. Velo. Now, let's say you can't say that and it gets not clear why. Let's say either maybe you forgot it or you don't have any light, so your sitter is not there. So name a hach. You should say the following, and this is just bizarre. What this means, it's the Rashbam I think says that it's just like the Rashbam says a lachashu. It's like a lachash, like a chant, like a charm, incantation kind of thing. Like just words like abracadabra. Okay, I don't know how you can translate that. Because this is what you say. Now, I'm sure there are people who've written books about what this means, but the words mean, Lo shafan anigron anir defin. There's a rabbit cage that's chasing after you. Okay. Bain kochvei yativna. You're sitting between the stars. Bain bli'i shamini azona. I walk between thin and fat people, and then you say it. So it's not really clear. And then you drink, right? So we don't know what the heck this means, what the rabbits have to do with it, what the people have to do with it. But I guess this works against Shadim. V'ilo, and if you don't remember that incantation, or for whatever reason you don't say it, then Ika inish the next best solution, Shadim don't like crowds. We had this earlier, right? You don't go out alone, you have to go out in groups. So if there's someone else sleeping in the house with you, nit are, wake them up. You might not be scared of the Shadim anymore, but nonetheless, wake them up. The lame and they should say to that person, Palnaya bar palnita. So we're talking to the person you woke up who's about to hit you in the head, right? Palnaya bar palnita. Tachina maya, I'm very thirsty, v'hadar and then you should drink. And again, you're making a lot of noise to sort of make it sound like there's other people, there are other people. Be alone. If you're all alone in your tent and it's pitch black and you don't know what to say, then mikarkesh nachdama achatzba. You should crack the top of the barrel. And chatzba is the barrel. So meaning you should bang against the top of the barrel to make a lot of noise, and maybe that scares off the shadim, the hadr nishti, and then you should drink. V'lo, and finally, if you don't have that option, nishti b'midi, you should pour out a little bit, the hadr nishti, and then drink. So again, I don't know what the shadim have to do with water, why they like water so much, but that was what they were very concerned about. Tanur Abanan, and the Braita in fact says a similar halacha, lo yishta adam mayim lo min hanaharat lo min hagamim balayla. You shouldn't drink water from rivers or streams at night, again when it's dark. Vim shatan, if you do, damo b'rasho, mibnei sakana. My sakana, that's sakanat shavriri. That's a sakana of shavriri, which again is another shade. Shavriri, Rashi or Rashbam says, is the translation of the targum of the word Ivaron. Remember when the people gathered around Sodom, they were makab sanverim, right? They were hit with these, whatever sanverim means. What sanverim, Rashi says, Rashbam says is targum as the shavriri, so it's some kind of blindness. The tzachina, now let's say you're very thirsty, my takante, what do you do? So again, this is a great one. If there are people with you, lema le, you should say to them, palnaya bar palnata tzachina maya. Joe ben Shmo is thirsty. And I guess then you're announcing that you're drinking, and then maybe the Shadim are not going to engage with you. The elo, if there's no one around, then you should say, Nema ilu nafshe. You should say it to yourself. Palnaya amrali, you should tell speak to yourself in the third person. I said to myself, Palnaya, myself, amrali imi, my mother said to me, is daher mi shavriri, you should be careful from shavriri, and then you do the nanachman thing. Shavriri, briri, riri, yiri, ri. Right? Go down in thing, that's where Nachman, I'm sure where it comes from.
That's the opposite of Rav Nachman.
No, that's how they go down, right?
Nachman.
Oh, you know what? They probably do that on purpose. But nonetheless, I don't know that much about Breslau, as you can tell, but not yet.
It's all over the bridge in Riverdale.
Oh boy. So this is the opposite. They're going down here. Drink techina maya b'kisi chiyur. Drink a cup in a chiyur probably means earthenware. In a kosa that's earthenware. Anyways, so that's enough of that. We'll get back to it. Don't worry. But before we get back to the Shadim, we're going to go to the Mishnah for a little bit. The Mishnah said that Afilo Anisha b'Yisrael, this is still our first Mishnah of our Pesachim, right? The Mishnah said, Afilo Anisha b'Yisrael, even a poor person, you have to give them enough money to buy arba kosot, right? Because there's 4 kosot, you have to give them enough money to buy. It says the Gemara, what's the chiddush? And then we said, Afilo min tamchoy, even if they eat from the tamchoy, which was the lowest level of poverty, right? The most impoverished, who had to literally rely on the public soup kitchen for their food. So even then, you have to give them money for arba kosot. So of course, pshita. Why should they be limited, right? You have to give them charity. Arba kosot's required. Why wouldn't they get it? It says no, because this is very important. I feel Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva had a very, very famous and probably controversial shita. The Amar Rabbi Akiva said, "Asay Shabbatcha chol al titzarich lebriot." not referring to the public's responsibility to feed someone, but the personal responsibility. Rabbi Akiva said that you should rather make your Shabbat into a day like Chol than take money from other people. So let's say you have no money to buy special food or clothing or lights or anything for Shabbat. The public has a responsibility to give you stuff. But Rabbi Akiva said that it's better as a hanhaga, if you can, to not take from other people and just treat, not have anything special for Shabbat rather than take money. So you might have thought that the same thing is true by Arba Kosa. That let's say you don't want to take charity, you don't have enough money, don't accept the money. Says the Mishnah, no, you should here because hacha misham persuminisa modi. That here Rabbi Akiva would admit that even though it's really obviously frowned upon to take public money if you can avoid it, but here because we really want everyone to do the mitzvah, you should take it even though normally you wouldn't take it for Shabbat. So in some ways here, not in some ways, clearly this is more important, not more important, but more essential than Shabbat. Tanaz Be'Rabbi. Now they said in the Be'Eliyo, Afal Pisham Rabbi Akiva, even though Rabbi Akiva said this, Asay Shabbatcha Chol, that you should make your Shabbat treat it like weekday, meaning have nothing special, and that's better than needing other people to give you money. Aval Osehu Davar Mu'at B'toch Bito, but you have to do at least a tiny thing in your house, meaning you got to do at least something, even if you really have no money, there's very little you can afford for Shabbat. Do something to make it special. Even so, my ninun, what's that? Amar Papa Kisa Daharsan. You should at least have like a cup of we've had this many times before, generally translated as like herring, right? A cup of this was fish oil, which I'm guessing was very inexpensive or it lasted for a long time, and maybe a little bit went a long way, right? You take a little bit of that oil and that fumes and that stench, and you can mix it with regular food, and you get at least a special taste. And of course, Jews have adopted this and eat herring. Maybe it's somewhat, at least Ashkenazi Jews, I guess, somewhat in this tradition. Keditznan, and that's based on a Mishnah, and this is a Mishnah in Avot that we know, of course. Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema Omer. Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema said you should be az kinamer. I don't know how to translate az, like brazen, like a leopard. I think that's how we usually translate it. Kal kinesher, light like an eagle. Ratz kitzvin, fast like a deer. Gibor ka'ari. Lasot ritzon avicha shebashamayim, to do God's will. It's not clear what that Mishnah has to do with anything, but Rashbam sort of explains that even that you should push yourself. Meaning, even if you have no money, you should find a few pennies. So even if you really can't afford to make Shabbat the way you would like to, and Rabbi Akiva says don't take public money for that, but at least you should push yourself to find something or take some menial job to get a little bit of extra money so you can have something special for Shabbat. Even something as simple as a little herring. Tanu Rabbanan. Now, while we're on the topic, Shiv'ad Dvarim Tziva Rabbi Akiva to Yeshua Beno. Rabbi Akiva taught his son Rabbi Yeshua 7 things. We don't often talk about Rabbi Akiva's children, right? It's an unusual topic. So there's actually a whole debate here about who this was, Rabbi Yeshua Beno. Rashbam says, and Rashi, I guess, that when Rabbi Akiva is referred to as Koreach Hazeh. Renazai refers to him as the bald one. And so Rashbam says that whenever we quote in Shas Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, who's a very common Tana, that's Rabbi Akiva's son. Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha is Rabbi Yeshua, the son of Rabbi Akiva, who was the Koreach, who was the bald one. Tosfos is very bothered by that because he says, it's something to say. Renazai said this bald one, he was referring to him as a smart person, but it doesn't sound like a very nice way to call someone all the time. Why would you? So he says it's probably not correct, and that Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha was someone else, and this Rabbi Yeshua was, just someone who's not mentioned a lot, but he was the son of Rabbi Akiva. Either Rabbi Akiva told his son 7 things. First of all, B'ni, al teshev b'govha shel ir v'tishna. Don't sit at the height of the city, the entranceway of the city, the high traffic area, and learn there. And again, Rashbam says simply just because we don't want you to get interrupted. It's not, go find a quiet place and sit and teach and learn. Don't live in a city whose mayor is a Talmid Chacham. You need a politician, right? Because Rashbam says the Talmid Chacham is going to care about learning and about their scholarly activities. Not going to care about running the city. So you got to get someone who's a professional, not someone who won't care so much. Don't go into your house suddenly. And this is, again, these are all things we've quoted before. which is that don't, walk into your house and just rush in, because the people in the house will either live in fear of you coming, or you'll catch them doing something that you don't want to know, or some things are better left unknown. And so you should always announce yourself, like we have, Bevo al Kodesh, like the meal of the Kohen Gadol, right? So that you should make noise when you go into the house, and that's your own home. You should knock on the door, is what they say. Kol shekein lebeit chaverecha, and certainly when you go to someone else's house, you shouldn't come in unannounced. You should always knock and give them a chance to I don't know, to get in shape before you come in. Ve'al timna min alayim miraglecha. Again, context-wise, this just means don't not wear shoes, meaning wear shoes. I guess that was not so common, but always wear shoes. And Rashbam explains that's for health reasons. The hashkem ve'echol, you should always wake up early and try to eat something. And that's because bekayetz in the summer, will prevent you from getting, dehydrated. Bechoref ne'atzina, in the winter, will help you prevent you from getting too cold. But you should always try to eat in the morning before you go to work or before you do your day. Va'asei shabbatcha chol, and this one that we quoted before, Rabbi Akiva told his son, make your Shabbat into a day just like the week. V'al titzarich lebriot, and don't take charity from other people for that. You should work, you should engage with the person in which his fortune is smiling on him. If someone's getting lucky and they're ascendant, do business with them, because they'll rub off. The good luck will rub off. Amar of Papa, but that means don't buy and sell from that person, because their luck is up. It means you're going to get the raw deal, right? So don't do that. You should become a partner with them, and then you'll get into the deal with them. But the truth is, Hashadam Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak, my dichtiv. Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak quoted the pasuk in Iyov, where it says, "Maseh yadav berachta," that everything your hands touch is blessed. It means it's kol anotel prutam Iyov mitbarech. Anyone who took money from Iyov was blessed. Afilo lemizba minei lezvuni lei shaper dami. Then the truth is that when someone's got it, got the good mazel, even if you do business with them, you're going to benefit from them. Even if you benefit them, it's good to engage with them. So to look for the hot hand, as they say. Continues the Gemara. Chamisha Dvarim Tziva Rabbi Akiva to Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Rabbi Akiva, one of his students was Rabbi Shimon. Of course, we know the story of the Omer, right? Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. So he taught his student Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai 5 things. When he was imprisoned, remember Rabbi Akiva, the Gemara in Brachos talks about the story. Rabbi Akiva was thrown in jail for teaching Torah, and the Romans said you're not allowed to. So Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai came to visit him in prison. Amar lo, and Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai said, Rabbi lamdeni Torah, teach me some Torah. Amar, he said, Eini milamedcha, I'm not going to teach you because it's illegal, right? So I can't teach you Torah. You'll get in trouble, or you'll get caught by the Romans. Amarlo, so Rabbi Shimon said, if you don't teach me, I'm going to call my father Yochai, who I guess was someone of importance, and we'll give you over to the king, which sounds terrible, right? But I guess he was just reflecting how much I want to learn from you. That if you don't teach me, I'm going to get you put in jail. Now, Rabbi Akiva was already in prison, right? So it's not so clear what he would do. But I guess it was always worse than prison, as unfortunately Rabbi Akiva found out. So that's Rabbi Shimon said, I really want to learn. Let's say it that way. Amarlo, Rabbi Akiva said back to him, Bini, my son, Yotar mimasha ego rotzel linek, para rotzel lahanik. Right, a very famous statement. More than the calf wants to nurse, the mother, the para, wants to give milk. It's you as much as you want to learn from me, I want even more so to teach you. But what can I do? All right, I'm not allowed to. Amarlo, but Rabbi Shimon responded to him, but in that case, mi b'sakana, who is in danger if they don't get the Torah, or if they don't get the milk? Amarlo, halo ego b'sakana. The ego is in danger. Even though the mother wants to give it, if the kid doesn't get the milk, it'll starve, right? It'll die. And so I'm in the same situation. I desperately need your Torah, even though I know it's dangerous. Amarlo, so Rabbi Akiva said, okay, I'll teach you some things that are not exact, like mashalim. I'll teach you some things. The first one is in Bikashta Lichanek. This is a fascinating statement. If you want to hang yourself, Hitla Ilan Gadol, you should at least hang yourself from a big tree. What does that mean, right? So the Rashbam and other Rishonim explain that if you're going to go out on a limb, as they say, right? If you're going to take a position that's going to put you out there, expose yourself, go big, right? And so the Rashbam, so that's one interpretation. If you're going to go out, you might as well do it, get attention. The Rashbam says what it means is go big is that you should get someone big to back you up. If you have an opinion, instead of saying, I think this, go find some respected person, maybe in the twilight of their career, get them to support you. So you can go and you're going to be from a big tree. Instead of saying your own opinion from you, say it from a much greater source or a much more notable source. Furthermore, when you teach your child, make sure you teach them from a book that's corrected, that's edited, that's correct. Maihi, what's that referring to? It's referring to when you're teaching a child who's learning for the first time. The shabeshta, because once you make a mistake, even the al, once you get it in, you get it in, right? You teach them to read wrong, to pronounce something wrong. You read a pasuk incorrectly, they're going to remember that first thing, the first thing you learn, you remember for a long time. It's very hard to get it out of practice. And furthermore, don't cook in a kedera that your friend cooked in. What is that referring to? It means referring to marriage, grusha. You shouldn't marry a woman whose ex-husband is still alive. Garush nasa grusha, as they say, a divorced person who marries a divorcee, who's have exes who are, let's say, part of the picture, are bad de'ot b'mita. It's like having 4 people in that bed because they're still connected to those relationships. And some say it's even if they're not alive, even if a woman's a widow, it's a sexual reference. Not all organs are the same, meaning that you'll always be compared, and it's quite crude, you'll always be compared to the previous one. So you've got to be careful whether you stack up. Furthermore, mitzvah beguf gadol. Let's say you want to do a mitzvah and make a lot of money, then you should be ochel perot v'lo sachar. Most say it's with the vav, not an aleph. You should lend someone money, and instead of paying you back, they should pay you back through the produce, which you're allowed to do. The Gemara in Bava Metzia talks about, it's called mashkanta desura. You lend someone $1,000, they use it to build their car factory, and every year you get dividends. And it's not ribis because it's not in addition to your loan, it's paying back your loan. But by doing it that way, by stretching it out, you end up making more money. So that's one way to do that. When we get to Bava Metzia, we can talk about the details. And further, schar mitzvah beguf tahar, if you want to do a mitzvah and remain pure, that is nosei isha v'lo banim. You should marry someone even if you already have children, because by being in a relationship, you will not engage in illicit activity, even though you don't necessarily need to marry them because you already have children, so you don't need to do it for that purpose, but it allows you to keep guf tahar. Okay, next thing, Arba Dvarim, we have 6 more minutes. Arba Dvarim tziva Rabbeinu HaKadosh et panav. Rabbi, on the topic, Rabbeinu HaKadosh was mitzaveh his children 4 things. First of all, al tidar b'shach natziv. The most important thing is don't live in Shach Natziv. I don't know where that is, but clearly Rebbe did not like that place. Why? Mishum deleitzani havi. They're very cynical in Shach Natziv. And they'll lead you to a life and to attitudes that are like that, even though he obviously trusted his children, but he said don't live in that environment. The al teshev amita aramit, which is something we had in brachos, don't sit on the bed of an arami, which means, what does that mean? Ikadami, some say it means lo tignim lo kriyat shema. Don't go to bed without saying Shema, meaning don't go to bed without reaffirming your belief in Hashem. Or don't marry a woman who was once in Aramit, because it's not so clear why. With the last bracha we explained maybe because there's so many mitzvot in the pasuk about don't, anger, don't be a ger that you're going to sort of put yourself up for trouble if you end up getting into fights. And some say Aramit mamash. That means literally, don't go to the house and sit on the bed of an Arami woman. And Mishum Ma'aseder of Papa. And he said it because of the story of Rav Papa. Of course, Rav Papa lived a few generations after Rebbe, so it wasn't because he knew about the story, but because he was worried about the story. If you recall from Bracha, we had the story where Rav Papa went to do business with an Arami woman. He sat on the bed in her house, and her child had died that day, and the child was under the covers. And then, he was getting up and she said, oh, look, my child's here. You killed my child. And he had to run out of town. So basically it was the whole story there is don't get involved. Don't go to someoe's house and, where you don't know what's going on. Anyways, furthermore, Rebbe said to his kids, and this is a very pro-government thing, Al tavriach atzmecha min hameches. don't run away from the tax collector, right? Why? Dilma mishkacheo lecha, because they'll eventually, or maybe they'll catch you. They'll take much more, right? It's better to pay, a little bit now than to have to pay much more later. And furthermore, al tamod b'fnei hashor b'shasha oleh min hagam. Don't stand in front of a bull when it's coming out of the water, because it's refreshed, hydrated, ready to attack. So get out of the way. It's like the satan is dancing between its horns. Amar Rebbe Shmuel, which is a bizarre thing to say. We never call Shmuel Rebbe, so most take out the word Rebbe. Amar Shmuel, they say Bishar Shachor b'Yomei Nisan. Right? It's talking about a black shar, which are notorious for being moody. I think that's true even in the bullfights today, right? Bull running. And b'Yomei Nisan, when everyone is, everything in the world is fertile in Nisan and looking for trouble. Right, so that's when you got to be very careful. Tani Rav Hoshaya, Marchakim Mishartam Chamishim Amma. If you see a shar that's unknown to hurt other people, I would keep 50 amot away. Keep your distance. Never get close to a shar. And if it's a muad, then don't even see it. Right? Where am I? Muad, Mishar muad kamale enough, as far away as you can see. So keep your distance. Tana Mishmei Rabbi Meir. They said in the name of Rabbi Meir that if, let's say, you're walking by and you see Reish Tura B'Dikula, you see the head of a shar in a basket eating its grain, or eating its hay. So the shar, Rashbam says, is not even looking at you. It's focused on eating. But what I would still do, says Rabbi Meir, sak igra, I would climb up to the roof, v'shadi dargim tuch, and throw away the ladder. Meaning you can never be far enough away from a shar, even if it's not focused on you. Amar Rav, now Rav said this is also very practical if you are in the circus. Nizha detura. The Rashbam has a couple languages here, but one is that the nizah is the way you appease an animal. The way you speak to an animal, assuming you're an animal trainer. So every animal understands its own language. So the language of a tor, of a shar, of a cow, is hin. That's what you say to a shar. Nizla de aryeh, the language of a lion, is zeh. Obviously a more rough language. Nizla de gamla, and which was probably the most practical for them, was da. Again, I don't know. That's how what a camel understands. And Nisa da Arba, the song of a boat, right? The language that you have to speak. You speak to your boat in order to get it to cooperate. Is Hilni Hiya Hibla Hibla Kulia, which sounds a lot like the Viking chants, I would say. So, there you go. At least the ones I see in Netflix. Amar Abaya. Let's a few more lines, maybe. Right? We get a couple minutes. 1 minute. Says Abaya. Or vidad, all the following things. Or, which is skin, leather, dag, a fish, kos, a cup, chamin, hot water, beitzim, eggs, bikinim, levanim, and white lice. Kulan kashim ledavar acher. They're all cause, the Rashbam says they all cause skin diseases. They all cause leprosy. What are these things? Or, mandagani amishcha detzal, someone who sleeps on unfinished leather, which can cause your skin to be very irritated. A dug is a shibuta b'yomei Nisan. It's a kind of dug, a kind of fish that you have in Nisan, which can cause a lot of skin irritation. It has a lot of scales. Kos, a cup, is a shiuri kasa darsana, is the leftovers of this juice from the herring, which can cause, we mentioned earlier. Chamin is referring to chamimi, the chamimi mishadrolai. If you throw burning hot water on yourself, it'll ruin your skin. It might feel good in the schwitz, but right, it's going to weaken your skin and cause disease. Beitzim. What's wrong with eggs? That's mande madrucha kalipim. If you step on the shells, I guess that somehow is bad for your skin. Kinim levanim, that's referring to what are white lice. Mande machver levushe, if you wash your clothing, below natir leitam yume, you don't wait 8 days. Lahadar levush, you put it on. Right? You're supposed to wait till this is what we do with lice, right? You wait till it dies. But if you put them on too soon, then baryin hanach kinan, then the kinim become very healthy again. The kashin davar acher, and they're bad for skin diseases. I think we're going to have to stop here, even though we're not quite there. But tomorrow morning we'll do as much as we can. There's also a lot of Gadata tomorrow. But if you want to learn more about cats, tomorrow we're going to talk about cats.
Okay, so I just was reading. Shechan Tziv was in Bavel, and it's possibly south of Baghdad. El Sib.
Okay. I don't know how Rabbeinu HaKadosh knew about that. He lived in Sipori, but I guess the word got him. I guess.
I don't know. It says that it's also in Yevamot in 2 of the Dapim.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Chodesh Tov, correct? Happy New Year.
Chodesh Tov, Shavua Tov.
Greetings.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
7:30.
Yes, 7:30.